Welcome to the True North Country Comics Podcast, dedicated to promote Canadian comic book and graphic novel creators and supporters. I'm John Swinimer. On this episode, I chat with Katie Sawatsky about the Blackmouth comic book and more for Toronto Comicon 2024. This podcast is available on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and YouTube. Please like and subscribe to that video channel. Toronto Comicon is a spectacular 3-day sci-fi, horror, anime, gaming, and comic book event in Canada that attracts thousands of people to come to the Metro Toronto Convention Centre. Katie Sawatsky is a Toronto-based artist and designer working in the gaming industry, although she's been known to moonlight as a character designer and previs concept artist. Her additional background in fashion and children's education help round out both her visual talents and her measured approach to problem solving and design. She's worked with Netflix, IDW, Image Comics, Little Blackstone Studios, Glue, The Raid Studio, and Bogwater Studio. She's currently drawing away on her next graphic novel coming from Raid Press very soon called Blackmouth, alongside writer Kyle J. Smith. So without further ado, here's my chat with Katie Sawatsky about the Blackmouth comic book and more for Toronto Comicon 2024. So Katie Sawatsky, thank you very much for taking time to chat with me.
Oh, my pleasure, John.
I appreciate your time. I know you're very busy. Don't want to take too much of your time, but I do appreciate it. So let's get going right to it. And before we get to all the conventions about the convention, the questions about the convention, I'd like to ask you, what was the first comic book that you read?
I don't remember. I know they gave us free comic books in school, poorly drawn Spider-Mans with horrible messages that had no real plot. But I think that the first one I remember buying for myself and reading was probably issue maybe 7 or 8 of Generation X as it was coming out on newsstands.
That's pretty cool. That's a good one to get into, for sure.
Yeah.
So great stuff growing up, but I'm wondering who or what inspires you to create today?
That's probably the hardest one. I guess in terms of work ethic, it's the people that are around me at the studio and people I see just producing beautiful things on, I see it online. That's for the grind. And then for the artistry, I've always loved film, photography, and fashion. And I think that fashion's very inspirational for me because everything old is new again, yes, but it's never quite the same. And I think that when you talk, for me as a creator, I'm always worried about, it's been done before, but I've never done it. So being inspired to work involves me understanding that as I get into a project, it's not going to be the same as what everyone else has done. As soon as I start going deeper and putting my myself into it, and I can see that in fashion very, very much.
That's cool. That's a good work ethic to have, for sure. So you're going to be tabling, you're going to be exhibiting at Toronto Comicon 2024. So with that in mind, I would like to ask you, what is it you like most about conventions?
Oh boy, I love conventions. Double-edged sword, because they tire me out quite a lot because I give everything. I give everything socially. I love seeing people. I love talking to people. I love connecting, but I am, really, really present. So I just love having people around that are similar minded. I love the randomness of discovering new artists, or especially afterwards going for a dinner where you barely have the strength to chew, but you're sitting next to somebody and you realize that you maybe know them or you know their work, but you've never really met the person. So meeting the people behind the product, like the art, the writing, even the people that put the conventions together. I've made lots of friends now that are those kinds of people, and they're just so much fun. I got into comics because a friend of mine took me to a convention, and I thought, I like these people. And that's why I decided to get back into art and get back into comics specifically.
That's great. That's terrific. Now, you mentioned you've been to a variety of different conventions and festivals in the past. Do you have any one favorite moment that you can share?
Oh, I'm trying to keep them I'm trying to paint myself in a good light, not in a wild light.
Oh my.
I think I don't. I don't want to be like a name droppy person, but my first convention was Heroes Con in North Carolina, and I was there with a friend of mine, Danny, and Danny knew a lot of the guys from the Raid Studio as well as some other people, and I found myself out for my first kind of round of drinks with these people. We're already kind of blowing off steam because conventions make you a little loopy, and we're passing around these sweaty American dollar bills, which are very funny for us Canadians to look at. And we start making jokes about, making it rain and throwing them around. So I turned to the person next to me whom I'd been chatting with only a little bit. And I shoved it into his belt loop and jokingly was like, there you go. And it turned out that was Darwin Cook. And
oh my.
yeah. And we were friends until he passed.
Oh,
but
my.
that I had a very, it was just such a magical convention for me. But I'll never forget that, because that's what I mean about just being next to someone. You don't know who they are, but they are just a wonderful person. You get to joking around, and then you find out, wow, oops, I wouldn't have done that if I knew who he was.
I bet.
I'm glad I did it.
Absolutely. That's a great memory to have, that's for sure. So you're going to be tabling at the Toronto Comicon. I wonder if you could talk a wee bit about what you'll have on your table for people when they come by.
Kyle Smith, who works here at the studio at Raid with me, we've been working on a project off and on for years. And post-COVID and post me joining the Raid studio officially, we went gung-ho on this. It's called Blackmouth. It's book 1 of a 3-book series of graphic novels. We're going to be publishing through Raid Press. We don't have a publishing date yet, but we have finished the book. So we're just working on the ephemera and the cover design and things like that. But we're going to have a preview issue, which is like a little ash can with fully colored pages that's lettered and hopefully tells a bit of the story and gives you a taste. We're also going to have a new print, which I am just polishing up right now. And hopefully we're going to have some, stickers and giveaways and little things like that just to promote our book.
That's pretty exciting. That's good stuff. Yeah, I was talking to Kyle not too long ago about that. So
right.
He's going to be there with you. Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. So that's a great project to show at this convention. I'm wondering, do you have any other projects on the go that you can talk about?
A lot of the work I do is early development things for animation and film. So I'm often under like an NDA and things like that. But I will say that I've been toying with resurrecting an old project of mine called Slow Mosey, which is a psychedelic nihilistic Western. And what's prompted me to do that is that I'm working on a small project with somebody that is it'll be used for a pitch, but it is a Western, and it's more of a traditional Western. But I've been sinking back into those themes and really enjoying not only the aesthetic, but the themes and the mood of Westerns. I know they're hot right now, but I think they've always been hot.
Well, that's good. Yeah, it comes and goes in waves, I find.
It does, yeah.
Very interesting. Yeah. But yeah, maybe it's going to have a resurgence. Never know.
I'll ride that wave.
That's right, for sure. Now, at these conventions, typically you have people coming up to your table who get so enamored with what you're doing, they want to make their own comic book. So for these people, what would you say to them for one piece of advice when they're making their own comic book?
This is really fresh in my mind because I had a student come in today. I think she is about maybe 16. She's still in high school, and I met her at Fan Expo last August or early September, and she finally came by the studio and, showing around, giving her lots of little tidbits of advice. But the one that always sticks with me, and the one that I made sure to pass on to her, is just start making comics. It's all well and good to sit there and think about how to make comics and read about how to make comics. And it's also very cool to draw in your sketchbook and do illustrations and pinups. But to understand how to tell stories in such a complex medium as comics, you got to just start making it. And you need to work it out on the page. And soon you will understand what your language is, and you'll understand how to bring your knowledge of film and television and music and all of these other things. That'll start coming into your work as you develop your own storytelling devices.
That's good advice, for sure. For sure. So with everything you have on the go, I'm wondering, do you have a website that you recommend people go to find out about your current and your future projects?
I have a website. I don't maintain it as much as I should. It's katiesawatsky.com. I'm hoping to update that really soon when I get a breath. Raid is redoing their website as well to feature more creator content at the studio. So that website will be useful eventually, the Royal Academy of Illustration and Design. And also my Instagram, which is searchable under my name, Katie Sawatsky, or the handle is This Is My Face. All one word.
Thanks to Katie for the chat. You can discover more about Katie online at katiesawatsky.com and on Instagram at This Is My Face. And thanks to you for listening to the True North Country Comics podcast. If you haven't done so already, please subscribe to and like this podcast on Apple Podcasts. And remember to check out the TrueNorthCountryComics.com website. True North Country Comics is now on YouTube. Please like and subscribe to that video channel and hit the notification button. You can follow along at True North Country Comics on most social media sites. Remember, you can send any and all feedback to John at TrueNorthCountryComics.com. Thanks for listening, and come back soon for another episode. Bye for now. True North Country Comics Podcast is copyright True North Country Comics, copyright 2024.